Are you ever paralyzed by your own to-do list? Do you ever have so much to do that you don't even know where to start? Are there mornings that you wake up and the thought of just having to get out of bed and pick clothes out of the closet puts you into a fight or flight response before you've even stepped a foot on the floor? In this world of info dumping directly into our prefrontal cortexes, is it any wonder that we live in a state of chronic stress, anxiety, exhaustion, and sometimes even physical pain? We're bombarded from the minute we pick up our phones in the morning until the minute we set our Kindles down at night by news feeds and ads and doom scrolling and just all things blue light. It's enough to make Bob Ross throw his paintbrushes down in frustration. Welcome back to Rebel with a Plan. I'm Dakota Rebel, and today we're diving into the topic of decision fatigue. That overwhelming mental ache that can make picking what's for dinner feel like having to solve your own debt crisis. I have 7 tips to help you conquer the chaos with a little ADHD kick. Because let's be honest, my ADHD is always with me. It's like Dexter's dark passenger, whispering dark thoughts like, let's just forget the to-do list and go snuggle with Hawk on the couch. Unfortunately, there are days that I have to be productive. So doing some of these things just lighten the mental load for me, and I thought that I would share them with you today to see if it might help you with your decision fatigue. Tip number 1 is to create a uniform. This might come as a shock, but having fewer choices means making fewer decisions. Funny how that works. And listen, limiting your wardrobe doesn't mean you have to wear the exact same thing every single day, unless you want to. I do. 5 days a week, I'm wearing blue jeans and a black t-shirt. And honestly, even my socks are all the same. I wear white and black, no-show Puma running socks. I don't have to match them up when I do laundry. They all go in a drawer. I pull 2 out and put them on my feet every morning. Easy peasy. But if you're a fashion girly and the idea of paring down your wardrobe gives you hives, start with just laying out your clothes the night before for the next morning. Or if you're feeling really froggy fresh, on Sundays, you can have like a runway night where you pick out all of your clothes, shoes, and accessories for the entire week. And then you don't have to make another decision about clothes until the following Sunday. Tip number 2, try task roulette. Do you ever look at your to-do list and think, I would rather fight a bear with my bare hands than decide where to start on this list? That's where task roulette comes in. And to be fair, I cannot take full credit for this idea. One of you shared in the comments that you do this, and unfortunately, I did not write down your name. So if this was an idea that you shared with me, please pop off in the comments so that we can give you your props, because this is genius. So you have 2 options here. The way the commenter told it to me is they write all their tasks down, they rip each individual task, fold it up, and drop it into a jar. And then they pick one at a time, and at random, that's what task they do next. But you can also, if you're not interested in, paper, although that's a great idea for all those Post-it notes I have. See? I'm a thinker. Anyway, if pen and paper is not your jam, you can do this with an online random generator as well. Just put all your tasks in, push the button, and it'll spin a wheel and give you your task. Everything is left up to fate. It's like playing the lottery, but instead of winning money, you get to scrub the toilet. Is it glamorous? Nope. But does it work? Oh yeah. Because honestly, 90% of the stress comes from deciding where to start. Once you start, momentum tends to kick in. And if it doesn't, blame randomness. Listen, this next tip is going to be the one that will be the hardest for some of you to hear. But stay with me, okay? Because tip number 3 is to delegate. I have mentioned in previous videos that you are never going to get it all done. You can fill out your to-do list and you can check all of those items off, but right behind it is another little sneaky bastard of a list full of other things you need to get done. And since you cannot get it all done, does it all have to be done by you? And I get it, I am guilty of this myself. Those of us with neurospicy brains like to hoard our tasks like Pokemon. We gotta catch them all. But this isn't fair to you or to other members of your household. And I get it, I really, really do. Because I am so guilty of saying, well, if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. What is right? I'm sorry, there's not a right way or a wrong way to fold a towel. There's not really a wrong way to do laundry. I've been throwing my whites in with my colors for my whole life. I wash towels and blankets and socks together. There's not a wrong way to do laundry. Let somebody else throw a load in. Because right now, you're in the kitchen grumbling, no one ever helps me out around here, while your partner's in the living room grumble, every time I try to help, I'm either in her way or I'm doing it wrong, so I'm done trying. How is that working out for either one of you? I'm betting not great. So you need to relinquish a little control. Let the other members of your household help you out. If you live alone, this one's going to be a little harder. If you can afford it, hire some help. If you can't, I don't know what to tell you. That was a terrible segue. If you live alone and you cannot afford to hire help, see if someone can come over and help you out. Or just be okay with not getting it all done. I guess if you live alone and you cannot afford to hire help, then this tip actually isn't for you, and I apologize. Tip number 4 is to try time blocking while building in a chaos buffer. This one I really do struggle with. Time blocking, I don't know, it's never really clicked for me. I know that it works for a ton of people, so I wanted to mention it here because if you are someone whose brain does work that way, it can be life altering. But for someone like me with time blindness, even building in that buffer doesn't really help me. But if time blocking works for you, try adding in a little wiggle room. So that way, if you set aside 30 minutes to write an email and you spend 25 of it wondering if ending it with best regards is too formal, or if you should put the exclamation point back in just so they know that your tone should sound friendly and not bitchy, then that leaves you 5 minutes to finish the rest of the email. So just build in a little bit of buffer. And if you manage to get your task done in the time, in less than the time you allotted, you have that extra buffer of time to do with as you will. Tip number 5 is to prioritize your to-do list. When you make your list, pick out 3 things that you absolutely have to get done. Your 3 most important tasks. And once you knock those out, tell yourself the rest of the list is optional. You're probably going to get more done, but looking at them as optional is a lot less overwhelming than looking at it all as being mandatory. Tip number 6 is the dopamine hack. I have talked ad nauseum about dopamine production and the fact that neurospicy brains do not process dopamine the way neurotypical brains do, which is why we are constantly seeking out dopamine. So use that to your advantage and hack the system. Save your favorite podcast for when you have to fold your laundry. If you hate responding to emails, shove Skittles in your mouth while you're doing it. Taste the rainbow, write the emails, get the work done. Because when you turn mundane tasks into dopamine hits, it doesn't just make them tolerable, it makes them weirdly satisfying. Before you know it, you're looking forward to scrubbing the sink because you know you get to blast that new metal emo anthem and pretend like you're back in high school. Is that just me? That might be just me. Tip number 7 is to reduce your input overload. Our brains are not designed for the constant barrage of information that is thrown at us every minute of every day. So step 1, turn off your notifications. All of them. All of them. No one should have constant access to you in your time, unless you have small children. I mean, you understand, you're picking up what I'm laying down, yes? And step 2 would be to limit decision heavy situations. If you are so burnt out that even scrolling Netflix feels overwhelming, then you need to break up the decision making somehow. You need to, before you even turn on the television, you need to say to yourself, this is the genre I'm watching. I am watching a murder show. And then you go to the murder show section and you only have to pick from those instead of scrolling through the endless options or deciding you want to watch something and going to watch it and it's not there anymore. Looking at you, West Wing on HBO Max. Not cool. Anyway, less input means less mental clutter. And less mental clutter means even just a little bit more energy. And who doesn't need that right now? I would like to take just a second to discuss how to adapt these things if you are living with a chronic illness or mobility issues. Because for you, the game is not the same. You're not just fighting your brain. Most often, you're also fighting your body. And that's a tag team nobody signed up for. That's like Kane and The Undertaker dropping DDTs on you, and nobody wants that. Did you know they're not really brothers? I was absolutely shooketh when I found that out. Who knew wrestling wasn't real? Anyway, the key here is to pare everything down and focus on energy conservation. You don't have to conquer the whole mountain. Just try to take a step. For example, with the uniform tip, don't stress yourself out if planning a whole week of outfits feels overwhelming for you. Just try picking out the outfit for tomorrow. Or maybe just keep a rotation of comfy, easy to wear clothes that would fit most situations. Bonus, if they also double as pajamas. And when it comes to task roulette, make sure that you're including low energy things into the mix. It is absolutely valid to have things like sit down and hydrate in your to-do roulette. Everything counts because everything takes energy. For delegating, please make sure you are using every resource that might be available to you. Mobility aids? Absolutely. Delivery services? Hell yes. Do you have friends or family that genuinely want to help you? Let them. Asking for help is not a sign of failure. It's a smart strategy. And sometimes it can be literally life-saving. And finally, don't underestimate the power of rest. Sometimes the most important thing that you can do is to rest, recharge, regroup, and start again at another time. Please remember that you are not in competition with anyone, not even yourself. And now we get to the bonus tip section of the video, because you know I always got a bonus tip from my people that hang around. And my bonus tip is celebrate the bare minimums. If you haven't watched my video on bare minimums, check it out right there. It's a pretty good one. Figure out your bare minimums, the few things that you can get done that will make an impact in your headspace and your environment. Did you get out of bed today? Did you eat something that was not caffeine and vibes? Did you drink some water? Baby, you're doing great. Celebrate the small stuff because small victories create momentum. And momentum is what makes the big wins possible. So there you have it. Those are my best tips to defeating decision fatigue. I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope that maybe you learned a little something. Maybe you laughed a little bit. It's all a win in my book. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Don't forget to smash all the YouTube buttons and leave me a comment below and let me know what your favorite tip was, or if you have a great tip for beating overwhelm, share it with us. Let's keep the conversation going, because if we're going to be battling decision fatigue, we may as well do it together.